Right, so recently I got the chance to interview Pete Rubish. Now, Pete Rubish is a legend in my view. He's famous for his deadlifting, and he was previously he's deadlifted 920 pounds in the gym. And back in the day, in the beginning of YouTube, he was around and he was very well known. He was lifting super heavy in his garage with the washer and dryer in the background. He was known for his aggression towards the weights and his passion towards lifting heavy weights, and he was very, very well known and well respected in the community amongst all lifters. So in this interview, I got the chance to speak with Pete about everything, about powerlifting, about lifting weights, about life in general. So hopefully you will enjoy my interview with Pete Rubish. So Pete has an incredible passion, first of all, towards lifting weights and has devoted many years of his life to improving in this regard. He does possess great natural aptitude for lifting weights and is famous for his deadlift strength. Pete has deadlifted 920 pounds before, which is an incredible feat. I am a big fan and have followed Pete from the very beginning of his journey and from when he used to lift super heavy in his basement. So let's move on to this interview with Pete Rubish. So my first question for Pete, how did you feel when you deadlifted 920 pounds? Pete responded, the crazy thing about the 920-pound deadlift was that it felt rather effortless. That's the biggest thing I can remember about it. It felt no different than when I had maxed out at a 700-pound deadlift. Everything just felt completely dialed in from a form perspective, and it came up with relative ease. I had more in the tank on that one. My proudest moment had to be when I totaled 2100 at a meet. Hitting such a big milestone like that was probably the pinnacle of my powerlifting achievements. It's always tougher to execute in competition, so that meant a lot. So my second question for Pete, I personally believe from my own experiences that the trap bar deadlift is safer than the conventional deadlift. So do you agree? Now Pete replies, I actually strictly have my personal training clients use the trap bar for this very reason. The trap bar utilizes more quad involvement and less low back and naturally places you in a safer position. So it's really the way to go. But for competitive powerlifters, straight bar deadlifts are obviously a must. A big part of managing low back pain is simply not overdoing the volume and frequency. I have tons of disc issues in the right side of my back, but so long as I don't go overboard with volume and frequency, I can still deadlift pain-free. So question number 3 for Pete Rubish. How have you rebalanced your life in recent years? So Pete responds, my life has completely changed the last few years. I am now married, have a 10-week-old daughter, and am far busier. I'm off anabolic steroids now as well, and my priorities have shifted. Balance is really the key at this point in my life. I want to be both strong and healthy. I am not singularly focused on just trying to get strong, like I was for much of my 20s. So question number 4. You are famous for your 4-cheese rice-a-roni with ground beef. Do you still eat this? So Pete responds, I no longer eat this, but I do enjoy both on occasion. My favorite foods these days are fried chicken with gravy and mac and cheese. That being said, I don't usually partake in either. I typically eat jasmine rice and ground turkey for my first 2 meals of the day, and then it's pretty random in the evenings when I get home from work. Typically whatever I feel like at that time of day. So the next question, your wife Kelly is big into fitness like you. How important is having common passions with your partner? Pete responds, it's definitely key, not only with lifting, but with life in general. You have to support your partner and try to add to their life. That is the foundation of everything you're going to have moving forward. Without that foundation, you'll never make it and your life won't be all that smooth. The next one, do you still utilize Rubish rows or are you a bigger fan of seal rows? So Pete responds, I really don't use the Rubish row anymore. It was more for show back in the day. It has some degree of merit, but I'm a much bigger fan of seal rows these days, as they allow you to completely isolate the upper back and lats with no low back engagement. The next question, do you still do farmers walks for conditioning and grip work? Pete responds, farmers walks are too taxing on the CNS if you take them heavy on a consistent basis. So I'm a far bigger fan of the Captains of Crush grippers for 10-second holds these days. That translates better to hook grip anyway, in my opinion. So with our response, it's worth noting that Pete does a lot of heavy deadlifting regularly. So if you don't do as much heavy deadlifting regularly, then you can incorporate more volume in terms of farmers walks without fatiguing the CNS. But in Pete's case, because he does so much deadlifting on a regular basis with pretty heavy weights, he doesn't need to really tax the CNS too much with extra farmers walks. So I believe that bodybuilding movements are great for longevity. Have you started including more into your own training? Pete replies, I honestly find that accessories don't do all that much in terms of improving strength on the main lifts. You have to drill a high frequency if you want to get stronger on squat, bench, and deadlift. But the accessory movements can be a nice change of pace and build hypertrophy. Our gym really doesn't have any machines, or else I do a lot more. Things like tricep pushdowns and hamstring curls are great. So it's worth noting as well that Pete has his own gym now that he runs with his wife. So this is the reason why they don't keep many machines in that gym. It's mostly free weights. So the next question, what do you think about the epidemic of teenagers using SARMs nowadays? Isn't it sad? Pete responds, if I could do it all over again, I would have waited for sure. That's not to say I wouldn't have ever dabbled in it, but I would have been far smarter about things to avoid these long-term effects like the acne scars. You can't undo that sort of thing. I jumped into it way too soon. I still could have progressed my natural base a lot further as well. The health consequences are real. Nowadays, the balance between health and strength is far more important to me. Steroids and SARMs don't fit in that equation. So the next question, do you think it is better to look jacked and aesthetic than looking super freaky big? He responds, if you're more aesthetic, you're probably healthier. So I'm going down that route more myself lately. It's not as impressive and you don't get all the looks and respect you once did, but you have to pivot in life sometimes. And finally, do you perform the 45-degree back extensions with lighter weights nowadays? Pete responds, I honestly still push these heavy. Not all that long ago, I did a set of 336 pounds for 5 reps. I mainly do these for hamstring strength, although they definitely hit the low back and glutes. But these are huge as far as the deadlift accessory lift. Probably the best deadlift accessory lift period. Now, I definitely agree. I think the 45-degree back extension or back raise, whatever you want to call it, is a fantastic exercise for the posterior chain. It will build hamstring strength and size. It will definitely keep your lower back healthy and strengthen it, and also it will hit glutes as well. If you squeeze the glutes, it's a fantastic exercise. So this is a picture of Pete as well, in his days at Madtown Fitness when he used to train there. He's looking jacked. This wasn't before when he was on steroids, but now he's natural again. But he looks freaky. You could see his neck was always massive. His traps were always massive as well. So to conclude, I really hope that you enjoyed my interview with Pete Rubish. It was a pleasure to interview him. He is the same age as me, 30 years old at the time of this interview, and is finding more balance in his life with regards to lifting. He still has a huge passion for lifting weights, but he is doing things much healthier now and came off anabolic steroids. He looks a lot younger as a result and is no doubt healthier. I believe it is very important to find balance in life and happiness. If you focus too much on one area and neglect others, it can be detrimental. We should all pursue what is important to us and brings us joy, but take a holistic approach and try to ensure we are well balanced in all aspects of life. We must also ensure that we aren't risking our own health by doing things that are too risky and shortening our lifespan. So if you have any thoughts on this interview with Pete Rubish, please leave them in the comments. I would love to know what you thought about my interview with Pete. As always, please like, subscribe, and share. I would really appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time to watch this video. In the description, I'm going to leave a link to my website so that you can get more informative articles and reviews, and it will definitely help you in your fitness journey. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.